What's going on, guys? Welcome back to BlackTideTV. My name is BTide, and in today's video we'll be discussing The Crew and The Crew 2. So if you haven't heard of these games, they're basically Ubisoft's answer to Need for Speed. Ubisoft has come up with this new formula for a racing game. The Crew has been out for a few years now, and The Crew 2 was recently announced and actually had a pretty good showcase at E3 this year. So E3, Electronic Entertainment Expo. Every year, a whole bunch of huge video game developers come together and show off their upcoming and latest games. And The Crew 2 was actually a big part of the Ubisoft conference this year. I'll link my video discussing the Ubisoft conference in the description down below. But in today's video, we're actually specifically discussing The Crew and The Crew 2, in that The Crew was great. It was a good game, but there were some issues, and we're going to be talking about those issues today because I went back to The Crew actually for my Ubisoft video. I was like, yeah, I'm going to play some Crew, we're going to have some gameplay for that Ubisoft conference video, and I got back to the game, and there were a lot of things that weren't really right, and I was trying to figure out some things, and I noticed that there's actually a lot of problems with this game. It was a great game. It won Best of Show by IGN in its original E3 year, but it's not the greatest. It hasn't held up as well as other racing games like Burnout Paradise, one of the greatest games of all time, especially one of the greatest racing games of all time. This game doesn't hold up to that, and Burnout Paradise came out a lot before The Crew did. Need for Speed games hold up a lot better than The Crew did, and we're going to be breaking down the reasons why in today's video. Now, The Crew 2 looks amazing, and I cannot wait for that game. I can't wait to get my hands on it. It looks like they're changing up a lot of the formula that they have with The Crew, and so I'll be breaking down the formula of The Crew first so you guys can kind of get the feel for what this game was like if you never played it. If you haven't played it, I wouldn't say it's worth running out to the store to buy. You could probably find it in a bargain bin somewhere for your PlayStation 4 or your Xbox One. But I don't think it's really worth running out and buying. It's not the greatest racing game of all time, but it was definitely revolutionary for the time. The size, the scope, it's a huge game, and what they really set out to do with it was a good idea. So The Crew is basically set in the USA, where other racing games are set in a specific city, in a specific area, like a specific county of somewhere. So you've got your mountain ranges, your open dirt roads, and then you've got your city driving. That's basically what you boil down to when it comes to racing games and this kind of street racing genre. You usually have like a larger county. Like in Burnout Paradise, you had, I can't remember what the county was called, but there was a large country region, and then there was a large city region with a ton of little like intersections and stuff. The Crew took that to the next level with all of USA. You can drive all across the USA. There was a few major cities that you could drive through, and while they did their best to include a lot of really important landmarks, they didn't really get all of the spots that they needed to. And obviously they couldn't go shot for shot with real world roads. That would be absolutely insane. There would be millions and millions of roads, dirt roads, little pathways. The roads that are out there, it would be so, it would be too much. And I think that they might have gone this route with The Crew 2, in that building on this USA set. Basically, in this game, you have a few roads going from here to there, and you can get all across the United States. You can basically see the scenery, quote unquote, see the scenery of the United States while you're driving across. You can link up with your friends and drive in a crew. There you go. That's why they call it The Crew. It's mostly a multiplayer game. You're supposed to link up with your friends and drive across the states and have a good time, do some races and whatever. But here's the thing, there were quite a few little issues. The first, as I mentioned, it's the USA, but it's not the USA. Even the largest cities only have, like, I want to say 16 to 24 streets in them. There are only a few intersections in each city. Like, there are some larger cities out there, but if you were, say, driving through LA, there are thousands and thousands of streets in LA. There are tons of exits and different highways and everything, and they can't capture all that, or they couldn't capture all that with the technology at the time. Now, The Crew 2 is taking us in a different direction. We're not going with this U.S.A. situation anymore, as far as I can tell. Instead, in the Crew 2, they're really broadening the horizons with the motorsports. So instead of just playing as driving vehicles around, just driving your cars, now they're getting into different types of motorsports. You can drive dirt bikes, you can be on ATVs, there's like mud boggers and stuff that are driving through like the dirt roads, and there's monster trucks, and there's planes and boats and sea-doos, and they're really expanding what you can drive, and that was also a staple of the original Crew. In the Crew, you had a very, very select number of cars. There were only, I want to say, 50 cars in this game, and it seems crazy to look at this and go, there was only 50 cars in this game, because you can actually spec up your ride. Basically, you can set up your car with a different kit. You can have like a street racing kit. You can have like a circuit kit. You could have a dirt kit or a raid kit. And these all major car different. So you could have a street kit. It's better for performing in street racing. And then you've had your circuit kit, and that's like the top of the line racing kit that you take on the track. And then dirt is what you're seeing in this gameplay currently. Driving around like the dirt roads and stuff, it's better at drifting. And basically you had all of these different ways to modify your car. The Crew kind of added those RPG elements into a racing game, giving you parts that you can collect and equip to your cars, and it increases the level of your car, and it was a really good idea. It just fell through. They didn't really build on the idea too well. There was a lot of customization, which, by the way, if you head back to the Crew right now, you cannot customize anything at all in the game. I don't know if this is a glitch, or if the game is broken, or if they just completely gave up on it, but when you actually head to your tuners, you cannot customize your vehicles anymore. It doesn't let you. You cannot put your own spin on vehicles. That was a huge staple of this game, was being able to customize your vehicles. You could put your own colors and stickers and all kinds of stuff on there. That was the RPG element of this game, was collecting the parts, building up your level of your cars, selecting the specific kit that you wanted, like the raid kit or the circuit kit, picking the right one for the job, and customizing your vehicle, and all of that is gone now. So I don't know what happened to the Crew, but they had a couple DLC updates. It's now called the Crew Calling All Units, where there's supposed to be like this police situation going on. You can drive as a police officer, but now you have to buy the DLC to play as those, right? There's two different DLC packs. There was the Crew Off-Road or something like that, where they introduced like rally car racing and drifting cars, and they also introduced monster trucks, and then they had Calling All Units, where you can drive as a police officer, which would have been a good idea if more people played the game. It's always online, you're always driving around chasing other players and stuff, but the player population is so low that you'll rarely see enemy players driving around on the streets. And in the trailers and stuff, it makes it look like this is a really happening game, and it was at first. There was a lot of people, and you could actually find people just driving around on these streets, like in your hometown or whatever, where you're driving around. It was really cool at the beginning, but now that the player population has dropped down, it's really lost its touch. And speaking of police, the police presence in this game is really, really low. And even if you drive past police officers, they won't pursue you. So that's one part where the Crew fell very, very short in comparison to something like Need for Speed. Need for Speed, you drive, if you spit out your window and you're driving past a police officer, fuck, you better drive, man, because those police officers are coming after you with tanks and helicopters and all kinds of shit. This game, you can speed past a police officer doing 250 kilometers an hour, and that police officer won't even say anything. He'll just continue driving. He's going to his Dunkin' Donuts, or he doesn't care. So that was a huge problem with this game. The police presence wasn't there, and when you see the trailer and you see the cops chasing the cars and they're doing all these things, it's like, oh man, this is going to be the coolest game ever. I can get in a police chase and drive away with my friends and stuff. Doesn't work that way. Another thing that was a big problem with this game, since we're talking about AI, the police AI not being able to follow you or whatever, the CPU, there were also huge problems with standard AI in this game. Other vehicle AI was really, really bad, like citizen vehicles, like just vehicles driving around on the streets. For one, there weren't enough of them. Like, you're driving down the biggest highway in the United States, like driving from one end of the country to the other on like the main highway, and there's only like 10 or so cars. there were not that many cars. The only time that you really saw a lot of obstacles, people, cars was during the story missions, which was a big problem. Like, why aren't there more vehicles? Like, this is all of the USA here, and of course I don't want to see like so many cars you can't even drive past because it's a traffic jam all the time. But it would be nice to have more vehicles happening here so we have something more to interact with. There weren't as many vehicles, and when you did run into enemy vehicles, the computer drivers of those vehicles were idiots. Like, they don't know how. You can be driving full speed down the road on the opposite lane, driving directly towards somebody, and they'll just keep driving. They won't even pull out of the way. You'll just head-on collision. They don't care. They won't swerve. They won't move. And this was a step back in the genre, in the racing genre for this game. Because while it did have a lot of things that made it really special, there were certain things that they could have just put the work in and made it more intuitive. The AI, no intuition whatsoever. They were just the stupidest computers that you could ever imagine. And in a game like this, where the main focus is multiplayer, but now there aren't as many players to play with, you're dealing with that AI more and more, and it really sucks when that AI is too stupid. Last but not least, a couple of the missions and the difficulties of the missions. So the racing is way too easy. Way too easy. It's way too easy to win races, and the pursuit missions, unless you get it right off the bat, very difficult. As you can tell, this one hits really close to home. If you're trying to do a pursuit mission, you're trying to take out a vehicle on the first try, it's not going to happen. You're not going to do it on the first try. It's not possible. The vehicles drive too fast. They're too good at getting away from you. But if you know where they're going on the second try, bam, done. Too easy now. So the races are too easy. The pursuits are too hard until you get on your second attempt. The game was really just iffy here and there. I don't know how it won Best at Show for E3 from IGN when it did come out, but the Crew 2 should be building on a lot of these things. I want to see the Crew 2 kind of expand on the better parts and get rid of a lot of the things that didn't work. Get rid of the kits. Get rid of the tuner kits. Just give us more vehicles. I think most of us would be more happy with just being able to drive a regular vehicle around and not having to customize your vehicle and put on your parts and make it a better level so that you can compete with these other, because the parts didn't do anything. They were just kind of there just to let you experience more races. Like, you can't do that race until you're level 300, but that is it for today's video, guys. I could rant about this all day. I really hope the Crew 2 improves on some of the problems of the original Crew. Let me know what you think about the original Crew. What's your favorite racing game? And I'll catch you guys on the next video.